Okay, I'll try to recapitulate what I just said. So I think we were talking about games, that people play, and the unhappiness of adults as opposed to the unhappiness of children. And my buddy over here was talking about, there's more simplicity in the games that children play, and their unhappiness as opposed to the adults' unhappiness. And I said essentially that the adults' unhappiness is a very layered cake, and he said it was like a wedding cake. And I was thinking that it's like, once we've invested so much into something, it's like the sunk cost fallacy, or the gambler's fallacy, is that, if I just stay at the table a little bit longer, then inevitably I will win something. The longer I play, the more likely I am to win, essentially, even though that you're losing everything. You're losing more than you will ever, are likely to ever win if you continue to gamble. Or, like a sunk cost fallacy, where if you buy a house and you can't possibly invest enough money into it to actually yield a profit from it, you're only going to lose money by putting more money into it. And so this is sort of like, the tragic nature of many people's lives, many adults' lives, because of how invested they become into their sort of game strategy to find happiness, and what happiness meant to them, and the road that they took because they were told, hey, if you go this road, you'll find happiness. And so, many of us go down this road until we go so far down that road that even though we begin to realize the chances are very slim that we will find the happiness that we were told that we would find at the end of this. That that realization is so terrifying that is like the actual death that people are afraid of. The death of not only that they've wasted their lives, but they've wasted their lives going in a direction that will actually lead them nowhere close to that illusion of happiness that they were going after to begin with. And so most people will be so terrified of coming to that realization that they would choose to remain going in that direction, despite knowing that the chances of success will be slim, because however slim the possibility that they might receive their reward at the end of that road, that's sort of the only thing that they have left to live for. So much so that letting go of that hope would be worse than physical death. That would be like spiritual death. That would be falling into the pit of despair of the uselessness of their lives and the hopelessness of their situation, that they will ever find happiness. And so the question then becomes, where should one look for happiness if one is to find it? And how much does this kind of happiness yield? What is an acceptable amount of yield of happiness? That when one goes on their life's journey, what is a direction that they should go in if happiness is what they're after? But the sad truth is that most people don't realize is that it's the happiness that they gained in the games that they played. That's the real reason why they chose to go down that route. And what they lose along the way is the joy that they once gained in playing those games. Because the games become less and less satisfying and more tedious, and the suspension of disbelief becomes harder and harder. And then what we're left with is, fuck, all I can do is play these fucking games that serve give me no joy anymore. So it's kind of like, someone who is addicted to heroin, might tell you, it's like, yeah, I do the heroin and it was great when I started, but now I just do the heroin because if I don't do the heroin, then I just don't feel normal. I just don't feel like I can live without the heroin. So it's not even like that it makes you feel pleasure anymore, just so that you don't feel pain. And so most of what people do, and it ends up, the net effect is they're no longer really seeking happiness in life, they're just avoiding pain. So they continue to do the thing in their life that avoids pain rather than leads to any sort of yield. Because, to really enjoy life, we kind of have to be like, without any expectation that joy will take place. We're like children, We are able to enjoy things when we kind of take what is given and find the enjoyment naturally that, comes from that without the requirement of any like complex story behind that enjoyment. And most people, as they age, they don't just want the joy if it doesn't mean it's not attached to some story. Like, you gotta have some fucking reason to be happy, and the reason is found within the narrative. And if the activity that is being suggested doesn't fit the narrative, then most adults aren't interested in it. So what they don't realize is that in being so, hinging their happiness so heavily on the narrative, that they begin to lose their grip on what brings happiness in the first place. Because happiness is sort of like a gift, and a gift is not really necessarily what we choose. When we pick something out in a store, that's not really a gift. A gift is always kind of like a surprise, and we kind of have to be happy in life, we kind of have to be open to surprises. So, my recommendation would be, open yourself up, to allow yourself to be surprised. And you might be surprised where you might find happiness. Open yourself up to experience without the story behind, who you are and where you've been in your entire life story. The more you discard the stories around your life, the more you will be able to experience happiness the way a child experiences happiness. So, anyhow, I guess that's where I'll leave it. Have a good one.